वागर्थाविव सम्पृक्तौ वागर्थप्रतिपत्तये जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ।
सर्वेभ्यः नमस्काराः। संस्कृतसमितेः आश्रये कुमारसम्भव अधिकृत्य प्रवचनानि क्रियमाणानि सन्ति। तत्र 62तमः श्लोकः अधुना क्रियते। We are in shloka number 62. We hope to finish up to 72 or so today, and the rest of the shlokas of this canto is up to 86. We will finish in the next session. So the Sakhi of Parvati has finished her speech and has described the plight of Parvati and the causes that culminated in the resolution of Parvati to undertake this rigorous tapas has all been described by her in a vivid manner. And what was the response of the brahmacharin to these words of Parvati's friend? So that is stated in this verse. Agudha sadbhavamiti ingitagnyaya nivedito naishthika sundarastaya idamevam prihasa ityumam apritchada vyanjita harsha lakshanaha. So the brahmacharin did not begin to react based on the words of Parvati's friend. On the other hand, he wanted a formal confirmation from Parvati herself as to whether all that was true, and therefore he asks her, is this all true or is this a mere joke? So Ayi idamevam, in some books we have api idamevam, either way it means the same thing. Ayi would be a word of address. Api would show more clearly the interrogation. Api idamevam, is this true or parihasaha, or is it merely said for fun? Iti umam aprichyati. So did he ask Uma, that is Parvati. Actually speaking, Lord Shiva was very happy came to hear of the firm resolve of Parvati and the immense rigor that she had put her tapas in. And however, he did not show any sign of joy. Vyanjita means manifesting. Avyanjita, without manifesting harsha lakshana, the features of joy. When we hear something that is pleasant and very pleasing, or something that makes us very happy, the signs of joy and happiness will naturally show themselves upon our face. On the other hand, this is said to be a mark of Gambhirya. So, as per which a person who has a sense of Gambhirya would not betray whatever is in his mind. So, here he is so full of joy, but not the slightest inkling of it would he let others know. And therefore, without showing any sign of joy, avyanjita harsha lakshanaha umam aprichyati. This is what he asked Parvati. When was that? Agudha sadbhavam iti ingitagnyaya niveditaha taya. So, taya, by her, that is the friend of Parvati, he was told, niveditaha. And she told in a manner which concealed nothing, so which was 100% true. So, agudha sadbhavam. Sadbhavam is the truth of the matter, the reality. Gudha means concealed. Agudha, unconcealed. So, she has been able to reveal everything as things were. And further, Kalidasa qualifies her with another adjective, namely Ingitagnyaya. this Sakhi of Parvati knew the Ingita of Parvati very well. Ingita is what is in one's mind. Ingita and Akara are sometimes differentiated, sometimes loosely used synonymously. So Ingita is what is within one's mind, and Akara is the way it shows itself. And therefore, Ingitagnyaya means the friend of Parvati who knew the Ingita of Parvati, that was what was in the very core of Parvati's mind, she knew very well. She knew the heart of Parvati very well, and accordingly, she could speak the truth, and she hid nothing from the ears of the Brahmacharin. And this Brahmacharin has beautifully been referred to here as Naishthika Sundara. Sundara means charming, and Naishthika means a person who looks like a person who has taken resolve to remain a lifelong bachelor. So there are two types of bachelors, Naishthika and Upakurvana. Upakurvana is one who, after the completion of the Brahmacharya ashrama, takes to Grihastha ashrama, the normal way of life. Whereas a Naishthika Brahmacharin is one who lives a lifelong celibacy. So this Naishthika Brahmacharin, Lord Shiva, now was thus told by Parvati's friend. So it is said that Jaya is the name of the friend who spoke this to Parvati. So he asked Parvati in a very unassuming manner as to whether it is all true, or is it for merely fun that she was saying so. So the very question that the Brahmacharin asks itself indicates that there was something incongruent that what she was telling. अथाग्रहस्ते मुकुले कृतांगलौ समर्पयन्ति स्फटिकाक्षमालिकां कथञ्चिदग्रे स्तनयां मिताक्षरं चिरव्यवस्थापितवागभाषत. What was the reaction of Parvati to the words of this question of the Brahmacharin? Parvati spoke. Abhashata, the last word, means spoke. And how she spoke is described in the whole verse. Atha, afterwards, after the Brahmacharin put her this question, Sphatikaksha Malikam Samarpayanti. She had a crystal rosary of beads. Sphatika Akshamalika. So, Akshamala or Akshamalika is a rosary of beads. Now that she placed Samarpayanti, placing it in the Agrahasta, in the forearm of hers, in the palm of her hand. So Mukulikrita Angulau, in the forearm where the fingers are all made into a bud. Mukula is bud. Mukulikrita Angulau, all the buds have been joined together to form the shape of a bud in order to hold the rosary from falling down, and therefore in order to hold it firmly, the fingers have all been brought together. So she was doing her japa, and now she has stopped her japa, and because he is an honored guest, she has to respond to his question, and further he has offered to help her by offering half of the fruit of his own tapas, which is certainly quite large, as the very Brahmic luster and tejas in his face itself betrays. And therefore, Parvati now placed the Sphatikaksha Malika in the Agrahasta, or the forearm, and Kathanchit, with very great difficulty, Kathanchit, she spoke. Who spoke? Adres Tanaya is Parvati. She spoke Mitaksharam, very briefly, but Chiravyavasthapita Vak, so who restrained her speech or organized her speech for long. So it is not an immediate response. So she took some time to say what she had to, arranging her thoughts and arranging her words. The word Chiravyavasthapita Vak is also construed as pertaining to Parvati herself in her state earlier. For so too long, who knows for how many days or weeks or months, she had never spoken to anybody. And therefore, Chiravyavasthapita Vak refers to Parvati who had not spoken a word for months on end. Now she began to speak. So, And she says, Yathashrutam Vedavidam Varatvaya Janoyam Uchaif Padalanghanotsukaha Tapah Kiledam Tadavapti Sadhanam Manorathanam Agatirna Vidyate. She speaks in just one verse, whereas her friend described her situation in 10 verses. Parvati speaks but one verse, which answers the query of the Brahmacharin very well. She says, Vedavidamvara, O best among the knowers of the Vedas. So, in the Brahmacharya ashrama, it is Vedabhyasa that is conducted very well, and therefore, now the Brahmacharin obviously looks like a person who is highly knowledgeable in the Vedas, and he seems to be the best among them. Vedavidamvara, Yathashrutam Tvaya, exactly as heard by you. Ayam Janaha, this person. In Sanskrit, the word Ayam Janaha is often used to refer to oneself in a very humble manner, in humility. Yes, this person is Uchaif Pada Langhanotsukaha. He is eager to attain a high status. Uchaif Pada is a high position. So the word Pada not only stands for word, but also stands for a sthana, and therefore Uchai sthana. Langhanotsukaha, so I would indeed love to occupy a high pedestal. So Uchaipada Langhanotsukaha. Yes, I am eager to attain that high state as described by my friend. And in order to attain the same, there is only one means that is left, and only one means that is really capable, and that is tapas. Tapah kila idam. This tapas indeed is the means, sadhanam, for attaining that. Tad avapti. Avapti is attainment. Tapah kila idam tad avapti sadhanam. Kila shows that this is very well known. This is a very well known solution. There is a saying in Sanskrit which I had referred to earlier also, as Manu says, whatever is impossible to attain may be possible to attain through tapas. Yad dushkaram, yad durapam, yad durgam, yadcha durgamam, tat sarvam tapasa sadhyam tapo hiduratikramam. And therefore, tapas indeed is the means for attaining that goal. And because the Brahmacharin asked whether it was all a joke, she took it in the other way, saying that all this tapas amounts to nothing, and Shiva cannot be attained through this, even this amount of tapas. She says, Manorathanam agatirna vidyate. Well, there is no limit or no check for one's ambitions. One can aspire for anything. So, it may be silly that I am aspiring for that high status of being the spouse of Lord Shiva, but, well, that is my desire anyway. So, whether I really attain to that or not, at least I aspire for that. So, Manorathanam, for desires, agatihi, what is beyond reach, na vidyate. So, you can desire anything. So, even a layman can desire and aspire to become the president of the country. So, well, it may be possible, it may not be possible. However, nothing prevents me from aspiring for that. So, tapah kiledam tadavapti sadhanam manorathanam agatirna vidyate.
यथा श्रुतं वेदविदां वरत्वया वेदविदां वर यथा श्रुतं त्वया जनायमुच्चैः पदलङ्घनोत्सुकः यथा श्रुतं त्वया जनायम् उच्चैः पदलङ्घनोत्सुकः तपः किलेदं तदवाप्ति साधनं मनोरथानाम् अगतिर्न विद्यते तपः किलेदं तदवाप्ति साधनं मनोरथानाम् अगतिः न विद्यते मनोरथानाम्
used to say, why do you cry for the moon? On the other hand, Emerson would say, hitch your wagon to the stars. So, yet one has to be firmly grounded on the earth too. And the way the Brahmacharin put the question, Parvati feels even more desperate and thinks that she may still not be able to attain Lord Shiva with even this amount of tapas, and says, well, who can prevent me from aspiring for this high position? Athaha Varni. And then the Brahmacharin said, the word Varnin is the Brahmacharin, Athaha Varni Vidito Maheshwara. I know Shiva, Vidito Maheshwara. He is well known to me. Tadarthini tvam puraeva vartase. In some texts we have punareva vartase. Amangalabhyasa ratim vichintyatam tavan vrittim nachakartum utsahe. And you, for one, are aspiring for him. Tadarthini tvam. You beseech him. So you long to have him as your husband. Tvam puraeva vartase. So right in front of me, already you are hankering after attaining that position of becoming the wife of Lord Shiva. And in summary, he says, I reject your aspiration, going by the fact that he is a person who is utterly addicted to inauspicious practices. Amangala abhyasa ratim. So many people may have certain inauspicious addictions or habits or whatever, but even they would feel sometimes guilty about what they are doing. And the most horrible person is one who takes delight in the horrible practices that one involves himself in. Amangalabhyasa rati. The word rati means one who takes delight in. So, who finds it very enjoyable. So, thinking of him, tam vichintya, as a person given to inauspicious practices, amangalabhyasa, tavanuvrittim natu kartum utsahe. I cannot endorse, so na utsahe kartum, anuvrittim kartum. So, I'm sorry, I cannot agree with you. I do not find myself enthused to give you support. Now, having promised that he will give half the fruit of his tapas, the Brahmacharin is now withholding it. So, he is withdrawing it, saying, well, I thought you are pursuing some good and great goal, but this is indeed stupid, and therefore it's not merely stupid. So, his practices inspire disgust, and therefore he is a person who is addicted to such evil practices, and therefore this is something that is not fit to be encouraged at all. And therefore I would withdraw rather my offer of half the tapas that I had offered to give to you. And he says, Avastu nirbandha pare kathannute karoya mamukta vivaha kautukaha karena shambhor valai kritahina sahishyate tat prathamaavalambanam. From this verse onwards, for some 7 shlokas, so he ridicules Shiva. Oftentimes it so happens that if somebody comes with strong, harsh counter arguments, it may be possible to refute those arguments. But on the other hand, when a person ridicules our goals, we find it very difficult to face it, and we would rather drop our goal and go in a different direction rather than face this kind of ridicule. And therefore, the Brahmacharin is all set to show that the resolve and hard work of Parvati is all not worth the rigor and the exertion that she is indulging herself in. And so he says, Avastu nirbandha pare. Oh lady, you are persistent. Para refers to being tatpara, that is so very much devoted to avastu nirbandha, upon attaining a trivial thing. In Sanskrit, the word vastu is used in a very significant sense. So, when we say so and so is a vastu, so it doesn't mean that so and so is a thing or something trivial. On the other hand, he is a worthy stuff. So it is in that sense that the word vastu is used in Sanskrit. So avastu means something that is utterly useless, a very trivial thing, and therefore avastu nirbandha pare, O lady bent upon pursuing something extremely trivial at a very high price. Kathannute karoyam. So he says, look at your hand. Karoyam amukta vivaha kautuka, on the day of marriage. So you will have the matrimonial thread tied to your hand. So that Mangala Pratisara that is tied to the hand is called kautuka in Sanskrit. So amukta means tied. Amukta vivaha kautukaha, the auspicious thread of marriage that is tied to your hand on the day of marriage. Karoyam amukta vivaha kautukaha. How will that bear the holding of the hand by Lord Shiva, of Shiva? Shambhoho karena katham sahishyate. How can it bear tat prathamavalambanam? So that touch or hold for the first time. Tat prathama means for the first time. Avalambanam is holding. When Shiva holds the hand in your marriage, he says, just imagine, suppose you are married to Lord Shiva, then on the day of marriage, there is this panigrahana. Marriage itself is called panigrahana because it forms one of the most important constituents, and therefore he holds your hand. So when he holds your hand for the first time, tat prathamavalambanam, how can your hand bear with his hold? Katham sahishyate. Because how would Shiva's hand be? Valayikrita ahina. Ahi means serpent. He has the serpent as his ornament. Valaya in Sanskrit is same as kankana, and therefore, whereas Parvati has her kankana bandha in the form of the auspicious Pratisara, so here Lord Shiva would be having the serpent as his ornament. So he has made that itself into a bangle, and therefore it has become the bracelet of Shiva. Valayikrita means made into a bracelet. Ahi is the serpent. And how can your hand just bear that hold of Shiva's hand? So whereas Parvati is a beautiful, charming princess, young princess, so and her entire frame betrays the delicacy of a princess, here is Shiva with a serpent tied to his hand, and therefore the two provide an extraordinary contrast, and therefore how can your hand withstand the hold of Lord Shiva's hand? Tvameva tavat paricintaya swayam kadachidete iti yogamarhatah vadhudukulam kalaham salakshanam gajajinam shonita bindu varshicha. And he says, why don't you think for yourself? Tvameva tavat paricintaya swayam. So oftentimes this is one kind of neuro-linguistic programming. So you put this question to the listener often. So whenever you have to convert a person to your own line of thinking, you employ this phrase. So just think for yourself. So tvameva tavat paricintaya swayam. So that makes the person feel that he or she has the full freedom to think on his own or her own and come to the conclusion by oneself, and that this person is not trying to prejudice the other fellow. And therefore he says, tvameva tavat, just think. Tavat has the force of just. So consider a little. Paricintaya swayam. So tvameva, yourself. So give some thought yourself to this. Kadachidete yadi yogam arhatah. If, yadi, these two, ete, yogam arhatah. So would they deserve being together, whether they form fit company with each other? Kadachit, ever. What are those two things? That is explained in the second half of the verse. Vadhudukulam kalaham salakshanam gajajinam shonita bindu varshicha. The princess that Parvati is, she will naturally be clad in silk. So vadhudukulam, dukula is silk, silken garment, and the silken garment you are in with the excellent marks of royal swans, kalahamsa lakshanam. So the sari that Parvati wears would be having the mark of the Kalahamsas or the royal swans. So Kalahamsa Lakshana is the mark. So you can see that those traditions, as were the current in the times of Kalidasa, continue to this day. So when we wear saris that are marked with swans or peacocks and other things, so that tradition continues without break. Udhudukulam Kalahamsa Lakshanam on the one hand, and Gajajinam Shonita Bindu Varshicha. And what is Shiva's dress that day? He will be wearing the skin of an elephant. Gajajinam. Ajina stands for the hide of the elephant that he will be wearing. So Shiva is said to have killed Gajasura, and he ultimately skinned Gajasura and wore that as a dress, as a mark of trophy, and also upon the request of Gajasura himself. So upon the death of Gajasura, so as per his own entreaty, Lord Shiva took his skin as his dress, and that Gajajina is portrayed here, of course, with a touch of exaggeration by the Brahmacharin, that it would be still be dripping with blood. Shonita Bindu Varshicha. So Shonita is blood, Bindu is drops, Varshi is showering drops of blood even now. Gajajinam Shonita Bindu Varshicha. Now, while Parvati is adorned with dressed in the best of garments, the silken garments, so that are available in the Himalayan region. So elsewhere in Kalidasa's work, there is a reference to the China silk also, and therefore there was good trade relations between India and China those days, with China silk being very easily available and quite appreciated. And therefore Parvati is wearing the excellent silken sari. So and the sari itself is adorned with the marks of beautiful swans, whereas on the other hand, the dress of Shiva provides a vivid and horrid contrast. So it's dripping with blood, and it is the skin of the elephant that he is wearing, and therefore these two can never go together. So think for yourself, O Parvati, whether these two can ever go together, namely your own royal raiment and the dress of elephant hide that Shiva wears. Can these two ever go together? So they can never go together, and therefore all these are only symbolic. He says that number one, the Panigrahana itself that was referred to in the previous verse, and in this the dress on the day of marriage. So we all love to preserve the photographs of the day for marriage because it is a most memorable day. And should Parvati, could she take a photograph of that? So the two dresses would show a great contrast, and obviously people who will have assembled there would indeed be laughing at this contrast, and therefore these two can never go together. Think for yourself whether this can ever be possible, says the Brahmacharin. So you can see how the Brahmacharin is ridiculing the ways of behavior of Shiva, and all these are directed towards shaking the very foundations of her faith. Kalidasa is indirectly conveying here that our faith should not be blind. On the other hand, we should be able to withstand any question that can be asked, so that can shake the very foundations of our belief, and therefore it should be so strong, the conviction should be so strong, and there should be thorough clarity in what we are doing. So questions like this put to a person often sometimes disturb the balance of the person, and the person gets confused and can begin to question the very foundations of his own belief, and thereby, if he doesn't have clear answers to those questions, may quit that path that he has been pursuing for long and go elsewhere. And therefore Kalidasa is indirectly indicating that it's not sufficient to merely have faith in our traditions or in our goals, on the other hand, they must be questioned again and again, and thorough clarity must be sought. And it's only upon the firm foundations of thorough clarity that the firmness of conviction can be developed, and a steady pursuit to attain the goal can also be made possible. So, all these shlokas, so another half a dozen shlokas, we can see Shiva ridiculing Parvati's possible life with Shiva. चतुष्कपुष्प प्रकरावकीर्णयो परोपिको नाम तवान मन्यते अलक्तकांकानि पदानि पादयोः विकीर्णकेशासु परेतभूमिषु. He now presents another picture. Now think of going to your husband's house after marriage. So this is the previous points were the ridiculing the occasion of the marriage of Parvati. Now he says think of going to his place. So where does Shiva live? Shiva has made his home the cemetery. Pareta Bhumi. In Sanskrit, the word Pareta and Preta means the same thing. So he lives in Preta Bhumi. So in the burial ground. And who indeed can imagine that a princess like you will have to go and live in the cemetery after marriage? So, and however, what is the beauty of the Pareta Bhumi? Vikirna Keshasu. The horrible condition of the burial ground is that it has lying scattered many of the hair, so strewn all over from the dead bodies. Vikirna means strewn all over. So Vikirna Keshasu Pareta Bhumishu. So the Preta Bhumi or the cemetery. Vikirna Keshasu Pareta Bhumishu. So you will have to set foot on them. Padani Padayoho. Padayoho of your feet. Padani, the steps. And how are the feet of Parvati? So the steps are marked with the red lac dye, LAC lac. Red lac dye is the Alaktaka dye. In fact, the word lac in English is from the word Alaktaka itself. So, marked with Alaktaka are her footsteps, and such footsteps which are the very embodiment of the decoration at its best. Alaktakankani padani padayoho of your feet, are they to set foot in the Pareta Bhumi or the cemetery, which is all strewn all over, strewn with hair. So the dead bodies that are burnt there, so off their head many pieces of hair will be coming out, and they will be blown by the wind. They will be spread all over the burial ground, and therefore the cemetery, and therefore how can you set foot there? Chatushka pushpa prakaravakirnayoho padayoho. Now, the pitiable condition is that exactly opposite of the situation of Parvati earlier, her feet used to be placed. Avakirnayoho, they are habituated to walking in the pushpa prakara, upon heaps of flowers in the quadrangles, Chatushka, of the palace. So with her father Himalaya. So living in a palace, she used to set foot upon heaps of flowers in the palace quadrangle, and such feet will now have to be placed in the cemetery, and therefore Pareta Bhumishu. And the Brahmacharyan says, well, even an enemy would not like that to happen to you. Paraha api. Para means other. Para also means enemy. Here that is the meaning. Paraha api, even an enemy who indeed kaha nama tava anumanyate would appreciate or would accept. So even an enemy would not permit that this fate overcome your feet. So the feet that are used to move upon heaps of flowers in the quadrangles of palaces now have to set foot in the cemetery, which is full of hair strewn over. In fact, it is said that the hair from our own body, once it is off its original place, so the hair fallen from our own head itself is apavitra, and that being the case, if it is the case of the hair issuing from the dead bodies, it should be the most horrible thing that can happen to Parvati, who was in the most auspicious of circumstances and also the most luxurious of situations, so in the palace. And therefore, indeed, a pitiable plight befalls you and your feet when you get married and you join him, so in his house. अयुक्तरूपं किमतः परं वद त्रिनेत्रवक्षस्सुलभं तवापि यत् स्तनद्वयेऽस्मिन् हरिचन्दनास्पदे पदं चिताभस्मरजः करिष्यति. And he says, please tell me whether there could be anything more incongruous than this. Yukta means proper. In Sanskrit, the word Yukta Rupa has a slightly special meaning, a different meaning. Yukta Rupa means the most proper. The word here is not actually Rupa, it is a suffix called Rupa, and it only means an intensified form of the word to which it is added, and therefore Yukta Rupa means extremely Yukta or highly appropriate, and Ayukta Rupa is the very opposite of that, namely extremely incongruous, so something that doesn't behove at all, unbehoving to the extreme. Ayukta Rupam Kimatah Param, what more than this can be more improper? Please tell me, Vada, you yourself tell me. Namely, Trinetra Vakshassulabham Tavapi Yat Stanadayesmin Harichandanaspade Padam Chita Bhasmarajah Karishyati. Now, the post-marriage situation of being embraced by Shiva, that is the situation the Brahmacharin is conjuring up before Parvati, and he says, Trinetra Vakshaha Sulabham Tavapyati. Of course, now the bosom of Lord Shiva, Trinetra Vakshaha Sulabham, now it becomes easily accessible to you. Tava api yat, even though it is true that the bosom of Shiva would be accessible to you, Sulabham, yet Stanadvayesmin, upon your this pair of breasts, Harichandanaspade, which is fit for sandal paste, Padam Karishyati, there will set foot, Chita Bhasma Rajaha. Rajaha is the particles of the Bhasma, the ashes of the Chita, the funeral pyre. Lord Shiva is known to smear his body with the dust of the ashes in the cemetery, and therefore, should you embrace Shiva, it is only the dust of such ashes of the funeral pyre that will set foot upon your own body. While on the other hand, as you, the most charming girl in the prime of youth, you should decorate yourself, so you should smear your body with harichandana or sandal paste. In place of that, the particles of ashes from the cemetery will set foot. So, would this be anything proper? This is anything but proper. So, Ayukta Rupam Kimatah Param Vada Trinetra Vakshassulabham Tavapiyat Sanadvayesmin Harichandanaspade. Aspada means the place, the fit place for Harichandana, that is sandal paste. Padam Chita Bhasmarajah Karishyati. And he now speaks of the husband and wife going for a walk in the evenings. So, Iyanchatenya Purato Vidambana Yadudhaya Varana Raja Haryaya Vilokya Vridhoksham Adhishtitam Toya Mahajanas Meramukho Bhushiti. How Parvati would become a laughing stock in the eyes of the people at large, he is described in this verse. So, he says, here is another situation. So, Yam Anya Vidambana. Vidambana is a laughing stock. Here is another instance where it is fit for ridicule by people. So, right at the outset, so Purataha, right at the outset, Anya Vidambana, yet another point for ridicule. So, people will all be laughing at you. Yatu, namely, Udhaya in Sanskrit, Udha means one who is married. So here it is reference to Parvati. Therefore, Udha is one who is married from root Vah. In Sanskrit, the word for marriage is Vivaha. There is also the word Udvaha, also meaning marriage. So in both cases, the common root is root Vah. So preceded by the Upasarga V in the first case and Ut in the second case. So both refer to carrying a person, so in a particular manner, in a special manner. So the prefix V in the first case and the prefix Ut in the second case show that a hint at the effect of that carrying. So it is V stands for something Vishishta and Ut is something that is upwards. So that way the purpose of marriage is also hinted. So this is not something pertaining to kidnapping a woman. So that is how many people have tried to interpret this word. So root Vahu means to carry, and therefore marriage was a situation where the bride was kidnapped or some such thing. So people who are used to only such kind of sceneries can after all interpret only to in that way. On the other hand, when the high purpose of marriage is very well realized, we know that it is a Vivahana or Udvahana, so where the husband leads her to a very high pedestal. So the ultimate goal of marriage is indicated in the word, especially Udvaha, so Udu showing upwards, so having a lofty goal. Sometimes even the root Vahi itself is taken to mean marriage, and Udha is the past participle passive form of root Vahi, and therefore Udha is one who is married, Udhaya. So by you who have been married to Shiva, what is your situation after your marriage with Shiva? Earlier, she used to go on the back of an elephant, and even here after the marriage also she naturally would deserve to be taken on the back of an elephant. So Varana Raja, Varana is an elephant and Varana Raja is the king of elephants. So Harya means one who has to be carried on the back of. So you are fit to be carried on the back of the best of elephants, the lordly elephants, Varana Raja Haryaya. But what would be your actual situation? So the vehicle that Shiva has is but an old bull. Vruddhoksha, Ukshan in Sanskrit means a bull. So Vruddhoksha is an old bull. It's only that the only vehicle that Shiva has, and seeing you sit with him upon that old bull, Vruddhoksham Tvaya Adhishtitam Vilokya, looking at that, Mahajanaha, the people who will have assembled, so or whoever comes across, Smera Mukho Bhavishyati, they will all have laughing mouths. Smera actually doesn't mean laughter, Smera is just a smile. So they will be bursting with laughter, but they will control it and show it as a mere smile. So Smera Mukha Bhavishyati, Mahajanaha, people at large will be smiling, and there is only an indication of the ludicrousness of the combination. And therefore the husband and the wife should be a good pair, and that can be possible when there is good parity, and here there is a great disparity, and therefore this will amount to great despair, is what the Brahmacharin is trying to hint at.
इयं च तेन्या पुरतो विडम्बना यदूढया वारणराजहार्यया विलोक्य वृद्धोक्षमधिष्ठितं त्वया महाजनः स्मेरमुखो भविष्यति वारणराजहार्यया यदूढया वृद्धोक्षमधिष्ठितं स्मेरमुखो भविष्यति महाजनः स्मेरमुखो भविष्यति.
There would have been some compensation perhaps had the bull at least been young. So it's already old and nobody knows how long it lasts. And if that is gone, Shiva will have no vehicle to call his own, and therefore it's a very pitiable state that the princess should be reduced to this situation of driving on an old bull. So it will be the height of incongruity, and therefore he is at every step hinting at changing her objectives and goals, and therefore it is utterly unsuitable that she should marry Shiva. And if, as promised, Shiva this Brahmacharya grants the benefit of half of his own tapas to her, it will only be a silly thing. So it's like doing homa in the waters. So it will be an utter waste. So he will be expending the most precious thing for a most trivial thing, and therefore he is dissuading Parvati to refrain from the thoughts of marrying Shiva. The next verse is also a very famous verse. In fact, has been taken up by many Alankarikas for appreciation. Dvayam gatam samprati shochaniyatam samagama prarthanaya kapalinaha. In some readings you have pinakinaha kalacha sa kantimati kalavataha tamasya lokasya cha netra kaumudi. He says, two things have now become extremely pitiable. Dvayam gatam. Dvayam means two things. So samprati right now, shochaniyatam gatam. So shochaniya is that which is fit for compassion or pity. So shochaniyatam gatam, they are reduced to a condition fit for but pity. So, and both have had a common pursuit, a common goal, and that's what makes anybody group the two together. What is it that the two share? What feature or property do the two things share? Namely, their longing for the company of Shiva. Samagama prarthana. Samagama is union. Prarthana is solicitation. Samagama prarthanaya pinakinaha. So Pinakin refers to Lord Shiva. So because he wields the bow called Pinaka. And the alternative reading Kapalinaha is in fact even better. So Kapalin means one who wears skulls as his ornament, and therefore Kapalinaha samagama prarthanaya, by the solicitation for union with this wearer of skulls. What are the two things that are so pitiable now? Number one is kalachasa kantimati kalavataha, and number two tvam asya lokasya cha netra kaumudi. It says, look at the digit of the moon. Sa kala. Kala is the digit of the moon. The moon is himself called Kalavan. In English, we are used to referring to the moon as she and the sun as he. The exactly opposite case in the case of German, where the moon is referred to as he and the sun is referred to as she. And in Sanskrit, however, both are masculine, and therefore the sun is also masculine, the moon is also masculine, and therefore here it is Kalavan. So the moon is said to have 16 digits. So Shodasha Kala Purushaha, as we say. So there are 16 kalas or 16 digits. So you can see that in the Shukla Paksha, every day there is an increase of 1 digit, and in the Krishna Paksha there is a decrease of 1 digit every day. So this happens for 15 days. So the increase or the decrease. And there is what is called the Shodashi Kala, the 16th Kala, which is situated on the head of Shiva. So Kantimati Kala it is been called. So it is the one that never loses its glory. We can see that the 15 digits of the moon that we see, all these undergo waxing and waning, and therefore they have increase and decrease, and they look bright in Shukla Paksha and they look dull in the Krishna Paksha. but there is one Kala which is ever bright, Kantimati, that is always bright, of the moon, Kalavataha, and that Kala also sought the company of Lord Shiva, Samagama Prarthana, and as a consequence, it is now situated on the head of Shiva. Now, that is a very pitiable case. Why is that pitiable? Because it has to find company with the skulls that adorn his head, and the ashes on his body, and the serpents, and so on. So, all these adorn the person of Shiva, and to find company with the skulls and ashes, so is something extremely pitiable for this bright digit of the moon, which has gone and settled there and has sought company and been present there. Kalachasa Kantimati Kalavataha. And the second thing that is pitiable is yourself, madam. Tvam asya lokasya cha netra kaumudi. You are as it were the moonlight to the eyes of the world. Netra kaumudi, moonlight to the eyes of all. Lokasya, asya lokasya, for all the people in the world. So the word loka in Sanskrit has two senses. Lokastu bhuvane jane. So it means bhuvana, the world, or jana, people. And therefore, yourself, netra kaumudi, you are like the moonlight. So that is why the comparison with the moon is very quick and ready and very natural. And therefore, he says these two things have now become pitiable. In the first case, the digit of the moon that went and settled on the head of Shiva long ago, and right now you are beseeching for this, and therefore samprati dvayam gatam shochaniyatam tamasya lokasya cha netramodi. So he is continually praising the beauty of Shiva, as you can see, beauty of Parvati, and ridiculing the condition of Shiva. So this he has been doing regularly, and this in order to shake the faith of Parvati in her pursuit and to test her real feeling. So this is called this is Parvati's bhava. So that has to be tested and ensure that there is thorough clarity and conviction in what she believes and pursues.
द्वयं गतं सम्प्रति शोचनीयता समागम प्रार्थनया पिनाकिनः द्वयं गतं सम्प्रति शोचनीयता समागम प्रार्थनया पिनाकिनः कला च सा कान्तिमती कलावतः त्वमस्य लोकस्य च नेत्रकौमुदी कला च कलावतः कान्तिमती कला त्वमस्य लोकस्य च नेत्रकौमुदी.
So, listing the points of ridicule, he continues. So, in just 2 or 3 shlokas, he's finishing in 2 shlokas more. So, we will try to finish that. Vapurvirupaksham janmata digambarattvena nivejitam vasu vareshiyat balamrigakshi mrigyate tadastikam yastamapi trilochanai. Generally, it is said that in the case of a marriage, a bride would look for the charm and the handsomeness of the bridegroom, kanya varayate rupam, and the mother of the bride would look for the riches that the son-in-law may have, mata vittam, and the father would be bothered about the educational qualification, pita shrutam, and the relatives would all like to ensure that he belongs to the same kula, the same family, bandhavaha kulamichanti. and as to others, they would only be happy with the excellent meals that they would be served, the food of the feast that they would all be served. Mrishtannam itare janaha. So now in this case, not one of these criteria can fit in, as it were. So the rupa and the vitta, etc., all these are ridiculed by the brahmacharin. He says, look at the very form of Shiva, Vopuhu. It is Virupaksham. So it is because of the odd eyes, he looks very odd. So Virupa means looking odd. He has ugly eyes. Virupaksham Vopuhu. So the word Virupaksha itself generally is used to refer to Shiva, but here the word refers to, it qualifies Vopuhu, the body. The word Vopuhu is in Napumsakalinga, and therefore Virupaksham is also Napumsakalinga, and therefore Virupaksham Vopuhu. So his body is one that has ugly eyes. And Alaksha Janmata, and nobody knows about the details of birth. So it's often common to get the jatakas of the two, the bride and the bridegroom, compare. So there is no question of the horoscope of Shiva because no details of his birth are known. So nobody knows who his parents are, and therefore Alaksha Janmata and Digambarattvena Niveditam Vasu. So neither is his parentage known, and his, as regards his wealth, Vasu, that is very clearly advertised, Niveditam, by the fact that he is only Digambara, that means he has no rich garments to put on, and therefore that he has only the various directions as his raiment. So Dik is the directions. So the 10 directions themselves constitute the ambara, the cloth or the garment of Lord Shiva. So that itself is indicative of the fact that he is utterly poor and penniless. And the Brahmacharin almost concludes his speech saying, whatever is sought for in a bridegroom, would you please tell me whether this person has even one of them? So Vareshu, among the bridegrooms, Yatu Mrigyate, whatever is searched for, Balamrigakshi, O young girl with the eyes of the deer, of the fawn, Balamriga Akshi, Yatu Mrigyate, what is eagerly sought for in bridegrooms, Tadastikam Vyastamapi Trilochane, is there in Shiva Trilochane, even a portion of that, even a moiety, Vyastam Api Kim Asti, in him, in Shiva. So tell me what qualification of Shiva fits in to be called a worthy bridegroom, and therefore this being the case of his not having the qualification, even one among the very many that are sought after. So it's utterly incongruous that you are seeking him. So after another shloka, he concludes his speech, and then there comes the response of Parvati, which is most charming, one of the most charming pieces in Kalidasa's Kumar Sambhavam, which we will take up in our next session. Namaskar to you.